Hi, and welcome back to This Is Halloween, a deep dive into Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. In this episode, we're going to look at the principal characters in the film, what makes them tick, their motivations, and their relationships with each other. We're also going to investigate alternative readings of Jack, Sally, and the villain Oogie Boogie that hold a surprising amount of weight, some of which might help explain why this film is so widely beloved.
Trick or treat!
We are going to be talking about identity, sexuality, and race in this video, so please hold your comments till the end. But I do really want to hear from you. We're dealing with an all-ages Christmas adventure film, one that mixes several genres and draws very directly from key inspirations. In my opinion, it's more of a Christmas film than a Halloween one, which is to say it narratively conforms quite well to expectations of a Christmas film whilst subverting them in its design language. Christmas movies carry with them a common value system and a set of narrative and character types we expect to see.
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day, of course.
Christmas Day.
They often involve a crisis of faith, redemption, charity, family, and romantic love. It's also a monster movie, drawing from Tim Burton's love of classic monster pictures, a subgenre that deals with violence, death, and fear of the unknown, often featuring misunderstood anti-heroes or gentle giants.
They call me Swamp Thing.
And is often discussed in terms of gender and sexuality archetypes. The masculine monster, the helpless damsel, male gaze, etc., or the monstrous feminine and a male character's reaction to it, which includes arguments about, whether they're actually in opposition or just two sides of the same coin. Monster characters embody what Julia Kristeva calls the abject. Their mere existence violates cultural or biological boundaries, so people try to destroy them. It's also a children's movie, which is important because it necessarily simplifies or sanitizes concepts like this that might be too disturbing, violent, or sexual for a young viewer. Nightmare is pretty gruesome, but it's still a kids' movie. And it being a children's movie also makes it what some people call gateway horror. That is, a piece of media where horror themes are being made accessible to people who aren't already heavily interested in the genre. Movies that don't provide such extreme experiences. And it can be viewed as belonging to fairy tale as well, as it tells a timeless, magical story that both delivers a simple moral and remains open enough to invite further interpretation. Taking a considered look at its characters means first acknowledging this context, because it deeply affects how we look at them and the kinds of associational baggage we're going to bring as an audience. This melting pot of genres and inspirations is served so perfectly by its cast of characters, because they themselves are full of contradictions and are often at odds with themselves more than they are with anything or anyone else. You've got the king of horror who no longer wants to be scary, a mayor who doesn't seem to be in charge of anything, the damsel prisoner who keeps leaving and coming back. Pretty much every speaking role has this conflicted quality in them. So let's look at our players in more detail. First up, there's Jack Skellington, aka the Pumpkin King, the beloved leader of Halloween Town who longs for something more. Jack is the clear protagonist of this film. He has the most screen time by far, and has the most agency in affecting the plot. We learn that he's creative, inquisitive, and a charming natural performer. We meet Jack in the midst of a crisis, no longer feeling fulfilled by his duties. In a whole world of monsters, he feels like the lone outsider, and we, the audience, want to see him succeed. Jack, for us, embodies the central conflict of the film, which I think most closely follows the Christmas movie roadmap. A loss of faith that disrupts the status quo, leading to a humbling adventure, and arriving at a new appreciation for what our protagonist already had. True to his forefather, George Bailey, he ultimately realizes that it is a wonderful life after all. He just needed a shift in perspective. Jack is also the unintentional monster, which is important. He's definitely a monster in this monster movie, and inflicts a certain amount of violence and terror on people, but the terror he inflicts stems from misunderstanding. He doesn't willfully cause harm, which secures his status as a sympathetic hero. the harm he does cause is generally treated as humorous and quickly fixed in the end by Santa Claus. Surprising no one, I personally connect with Jack most as a creative. One article I read compared the idea of someone saying, "I'm thinking of being Santa Claus," to "I'm thinking of quitting high school to focus on my music career," which is so perfect. As if dating Jack Skellington would be the same as dating Jack Black's character in School of Rock. I love this idea of Jack as an enthusiastic but unfocused creative who has this thing he just has to get out of his system. But that is far from the only reading of this character. In preparing for this series, we came across a huge number of arguments for interpreting Jack's journey in terms of gender and sexuality, and they're kind of spot on. Let's consider, again, Jack as a performer. Ariel Fisher, in her column on queer readings for Slash Film, writes, "Performing for everyone is all he's ever had to succeed at, and as a result, he got damn good at it, in more ways than one." We watch Jack as he struggles against an unseen, unnamed structure, one that places him in a strict category. Does he have to be the Pumpkin King? Can't he be something else? When he finds Christmastown, his initial instinct is distrust. To quote some lyrics from the song "What's This?", "Wake up, Jack, this isn't fair. There's something very wrong." He didn't know life could be this way. And he rides high on this. He becomes obsessed for a while, like many people do when they discover something that feels so important. It becomes all they want to talk about. In another great article, Mary Grace Garris describes him as adorably manic, which I think is just a really fun and very accurate description. But later, when he tries desperately to explain it to his friends, they don't get it. To his own detriment, he puts the mask back on. He performs what he thinks his friends want. He also makes the mistake of believing that the extremes of Christmastown and Halloween Town are the only two options, which is still painfully limiting. By the end of the film, with the help of Sally, who shares in his otherness, and Santa, who brings a little Christmas spirit to Halloween Town, Jack finds a poignant middle ground, a newfound confidence in his own identity, and a recognition that it doesn't have to be so rigid. And in this way, he has spoken to generations of queer viewers. Jack is the embodiment of that experience, of trying to wrap your head around yourself, much like many of us have, in order to feel at home in your own skin. Next, we're going to talk about Sally, after this short message. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I really like making these, and I'm trying to do something a little bit crazy here, which is, I want to make this my job. Not only that, I want to scale it so it can create jobs for other people. There are a bunch of ways you can support the channel, but one of the best and most direct is by joining our Patreon community. I know, it's a bunch of extra clicks, and I also know every other channel is asking you to do something similar. But if you feel like you're getting value out of what I'm making here, consider joining, even if it's only for a month or two. You'll get to have a say in the topics I cover in the future, and you'll get access to bonus content and private channels on our Discord server. Or if you prefer, you can make a one-off donation directly at chriscoolblog.com. Thank you so much. So let's talk about Sally. Sally is the female lead, and in terms of runtime comes in second. Although I think when it comes to agency, we have a more difficult conversation on our hands. She sees things going wrong, but is powerless to stop them. And only right at the end does she share her feelings for Jack and help him reach his new equilibrium. Again, she's a character full of contradictions. The true outsider of Halloween Town, with no social status like Jack. She's often pictured alone, observing things from a distance. A ragdoll creation of a mad scientist, deliberately reminiscent of Frankenstein's monster. She has no home but his, and seems to be mostly defined by her captivity and fragility. This is where I personally have trouble teasing out how I feel about Sally as a character. Is she a feminist rebel icon? A helpless victim? Or somewhere in between? A lot of articles I've read hold her up as the former, but I'm not so sure it's supported by the text. For one thing, like I said, she doesn't actually manage to successfully intervene in anything. Her warnings to Jack are ignored, and her attempt to stop the sleigh ride is thwarted. She's shown to be skilled and resourceful in her escapes and her plots against Finkelstein. She can cook, she can sew, she can build contraptions, but she escapes only to return to captivity again or spend the night sleeping in a graveyard. I think when you look at her relationship with Dr. Finkelstein, Sally is more easily read as a victim of domestic abuse. He hurts her, she hurts him, she leaves, but she goes back. She goes to extreme lengths to escape him, even literally throwing herself out of a window, which is a very potent image. She destroys herself and then puts herself back together, but finds that she's just as isolated in freedom as in captivity. Finkelstein cares for her in a way, but he enslaves her. He employs physical abuse, emotional abuse. He literally crafted her in an image he wanted, but she won't play ball. And by the end of the movie, he's moved on to a new creation/victim. A lot of this is played for comedy, but when you stop to think about it, it's really, really dark. And I think one of my few criticisms of this film centers on this issue. Sally isn't the effective heroine she could easily have been, and far too much of her identity is defined by her relationships to two other characters, both men. When it comes to the other residents of Halloween Town, there is some amazing characterization going on, even if they're not quite as complex as the leads. For instance, I absolutely love the mayor as a character. I like how well realized he is as a jealous, weak little guy who sucks. His voice is my favorite in the whole film, and I think his design just so wonderfully supports and caricatures what he's all about. His head being on a swivel so he can manically switch from joy to panic is masterful. And I love this hat. I don't know if this was intentional or not. It seems to have been present in the earliest designs, but it might just be Burton's tendency to stretch and amplify forms. But I personally love the idea that his hat is that tall because of Jack. He's jealous. He's compensating for his height and the fact that, next to Jack, he's impotent. He has nothing to do.
Jack, please, I'm only an elected official here. I can't make decisions by myself.
There isn't a huge amount to say about the next characters down the list, Santa Claus and the trick-or-treating trio Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Santa is played to type, and we don't get any real chance to learn about him besides the fact that, he's kind of paternal. He carries himself with gravitas and authority, but that's about it. Lock, Shock, and Barrel get one of my favorite songs in the film, Kidnap the Sandy Claus, and in that we get quite a lot of insight into them as violent, vulgar antagonists. But otherwise, most of what they do happens off-screen. With Oogie Boogie, however, we have more to talk about. Oogie is presented as a kind of Lex Luthor-type villain, a king of the sewers plotting to take over. He seemingly lives underground and is only ever seen there, except for the shadow on the moon in the opening sequence. We know from the mayor's reaction to Lock, Shock, and Barrel that he's regarded with fear by the other townsfolk. He's the guy the scary people are scared of. And as opposed to every other, quote, monster in this movie, he intentionally sets out to do harm. We can easily read him as embodying greed, gluttony, and lust for power. In short, he's the bad guy.
'Cause I'm Mr Oogie Boogie, and you ain't going nowhere.
And in this way, Oogie illustrates a really important contrast being made in this film. Horror performance as a sort of celebration versus acts that are unambiguously evil and monstrous. If Jack is our unintentional monster, a character who's generally sympathetic and who inflicts harm only by accident, Oogie is our intentional monster, a villain who sets out to kidnap, conquer, and consolidate power. He puts other characters directly in harm's way and is motivated by selfishness. This is bolstered by his design, which sets him apart from every other creature in Halloween Town. At the end of the movie, it's revealed that Oogie is actually millions of bugs and insects wrapped in a kind of skin sack, a truly gross image. Whereas, Jack is still somewhat human, being a roughly man-shaped skeleton. Oogie is literally made up of creepy, crawly things, an image that unsettles us far more than a siren or a vampire, or whatever this guy is, ever could. Then, now, and bear with me, there's the small matter of Oogie's racial coding. His underground lair is a mashup of casino objects, inferring vice and gambling, which is normal enough, but also this strong southern Louisiana kind of New Orleans hoodoo-inspired aesthetic with the fluorescent paint and accentuated angular designs. His main performance is a vaudeville jazzy number, which the team has said many times was inspired by the singer Cab Calloway.
Heidi, 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 ho! Heidi, 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 ho!
Who featured in a particularly trippy Betty Boop cartoon. And he's voiced by Ken Page, the only black actor in a major speaking role. So while technically yes, he's a bag of bugs with no explicit race, he is very heavily coded as black and will be interpreted by some audiences that way, which is maybe a little unfortunate in a movie where no other character has these qualities. To put it another way, in a town full of well-meaning monsters, most of whom are played by white people, the guy who can be interpreted as a person of color is the only truly evil one? Now, I'm not suggesting this is a fatal issue or the result of intentional bigotry, but if the goal is to do a comprehensive evaluation of the characters, then this slightly uncomfortable aspect of the film needs to be discussed. Having watched a lot of Tim Burton's work now on either side of this project, this is a trend that turns up quite frequently. This pattern of trivializing or borrowing from African American culture, maybe unconsciously, as a shorthand for bad, scary, or other. Obviously, this is not unique to Burton, especially at this time in 80s and 90s Hollywood, but he does provide quite a lot of examples. So anyway, I always read all my comments, and I especially want to hear from you on this episode. If you're a fan of this movie, how do you feel about its characters? With Oogie, is this something that you've thought about? And if you've never considered it before, does it change the way you see him? How do you feel about Sally? Is she a victim or a rebel? And what does Jack's journey mean to you personally? The fact that I expect every answer to be different, and quite a few of them to be maybe a little charged, is a testament to the quality of the characterization in this film. Whether it's controversial, ambiguous, whether you think it's offensive or too dark for a kid's movie, you can't deny that it's effective. This is a story that, true to its roots, holds a mirror up to its audience, allowing us, if we choose, to imprint ourselves on them, and them, in turn, to imprint on us. Thank you for enjoying this episode of This Is Halloween. Stay tuned for the next couple of episodes. They're going to be really interesting. And the reception has been so positive so far, we're going to try and insert at least one bonus episode into the running order. If you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon, or just send filmquestion.com, which redirects here to the film nerd in your life.